Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're checking out a very special edition of a 5-color Golos ramp deck, but unlike most Golos decks that focus on the activated ability to cheat expensive spells into play for free, we're mostly playing it so we can reliably access the World Tree, a land that's sometimes searched up by Golos just for the mana fixing it provides, so it's not too unusual for Golos to search it up, but we're playing it for the activated ability that costs us 10 mana, can tap and sacrifice the World Tree, and then we get to search our library for any number of god cards and put them straight onto the battlefield. And if we take a look at our deck breakdown, you'll notice a pretty big category dedicated to just those god cards. We've got 13 total. We're focusing on the teamer colors to make sure we have enough devotion to enable some of those Theros gods, so they will all enter the battlefield as creatures. We have a bunch of triggers going on the stack. Most of those triggers are from Pilferer's God of the Forge, dealing 2 damage for each creature that entered the battlefield, but because we also have O'Hare Ashnil, we get to improve that damage to O'Hare's power, and we also have God Eternal Ronas, doubling all our creatures' power when it enters the battlefield, so now O'Hare's power goes up to 8 if we stack those correctly, and then we resolve all the Pilferer's triggers, so now we get to deal 8 damage for each one of those 13 gods that just entered the battlefield, and we also get to give the team haste thanks to Pilferer's Bronze Blooded, and we can give another creature haste with Xanagos God of Revels, so all our gods get to attack at once, and that's going to be well over 200 damage on the spot. So that's our game plan, just simply sacrifice our World Tree and win the game. Now of course to get there we do need to survive a while, which is why if you take a look at our deck breakdown we've got a pretty big section dedicated to board wipes, which then means we don't want our ramp to be creature focused, so if we take a look at our other ramp cards, it's mostly artifacts and sorceries to put additional lands onto the battlefield, so we can eventually get to 10 mana to sack our World Tree and hopefully win the game. So that's our deck in a nutshell. Now for the deep dive, starting with our cheaper ramp cards. At 0 mana we get to use Chrome Mox, so we can already start ramping right away. Our Boreal Grazer can put an extra land in play and chum block, and then at 2 mana there's Explore. Glimpse the Core can find a forest. We've got Into the North, which is why we have some snow-covered basics, as well as Rampant Growth, Growth Spiral, and Planar Genesis. And then we've got Arcane Signet, Cold Steel Heart, and Solar Transformer, not playing any of the 2-mana artifacts that can't make colored mana, since those won't be helpful in activating the World Tree. Then at 3 mana there's Cultivate, Grow from the Ashes, can let our land enter untapped, can also kick it later. There's Spelunking, also useful to let our lands enter untapped. Uro can also be escaped out of the graveyard. Then Altar of the Pantheon is also quite synergistic as it provides a devotion for all our colors and can also gain us some life. Relic of Legends can make 2 mana if we control a legendary creature. Skyclave Relic can also be kicked to make additional tokens. And then we've got Celestus, which can also occasionally gain life or improve our hand. And then at 4 mana we've got more ramp with Cartographer's Survey. Invasion of Zendikar can find 2 basics. There's Migration Path, which can do the same, can also cycle it. Omen Path Journey can search up multiple lands, and then end step we get to put one of those in play each turn. There's a Vastwood Surge as another 4 mana sorcery to get 2 basics. Eureka Moment lets us draw 2 and put a land in place. It's a bigger version of Growth Spiral, and then an even bigger version is Urban Evolution at 5 mana. Mirari's Wake doubles the mana produced by our lands. Verdant Mastery can be cast for either 4 or 6 mana, and then of course Primeval Titan's also very powerful since it can also find our World Tree in case Golos doesn't resolve. Same with Titania's Command, which can also make a pair of bear tokens or maybe gain some life by exiling cards from graveyard. Then our sweepers start out at 3 mana with Toxic Deluge. At 4 mana there's Day of Judgment, Wrath of God, Damnation. Drag to the bottom we can also enable with Domain. Then there's Supreme Verdict as an uncounterable sweeper, and Sunfall exiling every creature as well. And then our miscellaneous section's pretty small, just have Brainstorm as an effective way to maybe put some gods that we have stuck in hand back on top of the deck, and then we've got plenty of shuffle effects between the fetch lands and all the green sorceries searching up lands, so we can put those gods back into the deck, so we can then search them up with a World Tree, because we cannot put gods from our hand onto the battlefield, they need to be from our library. And then a Leyline Binding can often be cast for a single white as efficient and flexible removal. And then taking a look at the god cards, you'll notice we don't have any of the black or white gods to make sure we have enough devotion to enable the 3 other colors, and some of the black and white gods are not particularly powerful if we cast them, since they rely more on synergy than being particularly good in this type of strategy. So then starting out at 3 mana, there's Thassa, which at the very least lets us scry 1 each turn. We've got a Sika, which can also make additional mana, not the best with our sweepers, but we also have the flexibility of casting the Prismatic Bridge, which can then put an extra creature in play each turn. There's Klothys, which can also make additional mana by exiling fetch lands from the graveyard. We've got Thassa Deep Dwelling, which can flicker Golos to once again find an extra land. There's Perforos, which is one of our win conditions, same with O'Hare Ashonil, and then a Perforos Bronze Blooded to give our other creatures haste. We've got God Eternal Ronas, also part of the Wombo combo. And then Keranos can provide a bit of extra card advantage each turn, so it's not too embarrassing to just cast it if we can ramp into it especially. We've got Xenagos, which is also one of our win conditions, as it can give a creature haste and double its power, so usually want to target Perforos, which doesn't give himself haste, but it's also pretty good if we can combine it with like a Primeval Titan, so we can attack right away and get more lands. We've got Krufix, which can also ramp by storing up our unused mana, essentially, so that can also be useful, but definitely one of the weaker gods if we're just casting them. And then Sapsunen can provide additional card advantage, and at least if we put it in play with a World Tree, it can attack right away. And then the Locust God can also be pretty decent if we just hardcast it, helping us make insect tokens. And then the mana base, of course, the most important card by far is the World Tree, hoping the opponent doesn't blow it up. But again, as long as we don't show any of these gods before sacrificing the World Tree, the opponent may not be expecting it, since this is not an unusual card to include in most Golos decks. And then the remaining mana base is a couple basics to find with our various ramp cards. Snow-covered lands for Into the North. In each color pair I've got a check land and shock land, since those also have good synergy. And then we also have some of the green tri-lands, since we mostly want to have green mana early for the various ramp cards, which can then fix our remaining colors. And then all the fetch lands we can access, and those are great at fixing our colors as well. And then Cavern of Souls can also be important to make Golos or other creatures uncounterable, so can sometimes name God with it too, if we just want to hardcast our creatures. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play, facing Ugin. This should be a winnable matchup as long as we just ramp and get our World Tree going. This hand seems fine. Perfero is actually a card we would love to shuffle back with Brainstorm, since I don't want to cast it, but I would like to have the effect in play, so we want to tutor it up with World Tree. Opponent with an amazing start. Turn 1, Ugin's Labyrinth into Ornithopter. So this turn I can Growth Spiral, and then next turn I can Brainstorm Shuffle with Rampant Growth. Flash Rakers next into a Wayfarer's Bauble. So yeah, very good start from the ramp deck. It's only turn 2. And now I could just cast a Survey and wait a little bit longer on Brainstorm. Could also get the fetch land, maybe. So their opponent's very close to casting Ugin already. The good news is that Ugin, while good at removing stuff, doesn't necessarily win the game very quickly. So this turn, Urban Evolution's also tempting. I think it might be Brainstorm and then Golos. So Perforos is gone. Omen Path Journey's not going to be very good since Ugin can blow it up. And then we can shuffle with Golos. Or I can shuffle now and save myself some damage. Now, of course, a colorless deck could have land destruction built into their mana base. Cards like Field of Ruin. So now that's the fear, that they realize that World Tree is the issue. But yeah, next turn we can set it up, so then on the following turn we can combo. Ugin can't exile Golos either. They could eventually put Ulamog back in hand and then exile my World Tree with it as well. So that's something else to keep in mind. It's going to be a Coast LLC command to get rid of Golos and make 5 spawn tokens. So yeah, next turn they could make that play that I described. And this is also a lot of damage from the Flesh Raker. Alright, opponent's just gonna play Ugin now. But Ugin can still maybe help them cast that Ulamog. So I guess whatever I can do to distract the opponent from World Tree, I should take that opportunity. So maybe that involves replaying Golos. That's 7 mana. So then I could still Rampant Growth. And then I should still have enough mana to get there next turn. So that seems okay. So then they might be a little bit more focused on dealing with Golos. Don't even need to fetch, thanks to World Tree. Okay. No Field of Ruin. Portal to Phyrexia, I'll accept. So we're not dead. Back to the command zone. Opponent's at 30 life, I think that's manageable. And we didn't draw any gods. So they're all still in the deck. Ugin, you're about to meet the Pantheon with a few add-ons. Oh yes. Every Perforos trigger deals more damage thanks to a hair. Maybe could have considered actually stacking the Ronas trigger first, that way O'Hare lets each Perforos trigger deal 8 damage as opposed to 4. But yeah, this is more than enough. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing green-white enchantments with Sythis. Our hand's missing green, and we're pretty far from casting any of our ramp spells. This one's a little bit better, although I don't love Artifact Ramp in this matchup, since enchantments can easily exile those. But I think it's still keepable. Don't have any of our gods in hand, which is good. Have 2 ramp spells. Now we can even Genesis on 2. So our hand got a lot better. And then Verdict will also come in handy. Messian Wanderer is acceptable. So we'll just keep up Planar Genesis. Opponent's taking a slower approach, maybe protecting their commander. Alright, they're gonna go for it now. So they're hitting their land drops. Genesis did not find a land, sadly. So what's the next best option? Yeah, that's rough. I guess Vastwood Surge guarantees 2 lands. So then, yeah, we'll just cast Skyclave, although it's most likely getting exiled. Then next turn we can Verdict, and then we can keep on ramping. We'll see. Wolfillow Haven is acceptable. Yeah, if we're not under a ton of pressure, we don't have to Verdict. They can draw as many cards as they want, for all I care. And now Dryad can also play extra lands. So even if we deal with Sythis, they'll be able to replay it pretty quickly. Although now the combo of Dryad and Wanderer gives them a pretty big mana advantage. So they're the actual ramp deck. Curse of Silence can name Golos, so now that's going to cost 7. So yeah, this game's not going great. Missing a land on Genesis was a big deal. So I'm just gonna Vastwood Surge and get some more lands. And then next turn I can both Eureka Moment and Verdict. Now Sigil's a problem, that's a win condition. And they can likely trigger it at least once. But yeah, we were gonna Verdict anyway, but the problem is the enchantments they still have in hand. So they will quickly be able to present a lethal board of Angels, and if we don't draw more Sweepers, I may not get there in time. So let's Wrath. Opponent replays Sythis. Now Courser. So that's already 11 damage. And that's another Angel, so... yeah, they are presenting lethal next turn, so I need to draw a Sweeper. Which I did. Okay, maybe fetch a Tri-land, end of turn. Opponent's got a discard to hand size. And let's see, we can Sunfall and then still Urban Evolution. Still need to find our World Tree, so I'll need to cast Golos first as well. But yeah, we want to keep drawing more board wipes, since we may need another one next turn. Okay, Primeval Titan can also find our World Tree. But yeah, if they can make 15 power worth of Angels, it doesn't matter. Also noticed Boseiju, that can also blow up a World Tree. So if our opponent suspects something's wrong, they could blow it up. But maybe they'll use it on Golos instead. So currently they don't have a lethal amount of Angels, although I guess Destiny Spinner can also animate a land. So yeah, we'll see here. Can explore, maybe still draw the Sweeper. And we did not. So then, yeah, maybe I'm still better off with Primeval Titan. And then give up on Golos. Can animate the Incubator, maybe they'll use Boseiju there. But yeah, I think we're dead to Destiny Spinner. Axes a number of enchantments you control. 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6 at the very least. They can activate it twice. So I don't think I survive this. I guess I can also play Deepest Might. But then they'll definitely suspect that something's up with a World Tree. So maybe still get Cavern on Scout. So they're not Thinking God. And then play O'Hare, which is fine if it needs to chump. Just need to survive one turn here. A Naturalist I can accept. Our opponent's maybe focused on playing the value game and isn't thinking they could die next turn. But we'll see. Elspeth exiles Titan. Transformation O'Hare. Do they see the World Tree as a threat? Alright, we're taking 8. Do we get to untap? Opponent plays a land. I mean, they have so many cards in hand, they're probably not thinking of using Boseiju. Alright, it's go time. Not gonna put anything else on the stack if I don't have to. And get all our gods. And hopefully that's still good enough. Since we don't have O'Hare, there's no real upside to resolving the Ronos trigger first or last. I guess playing Klothys first would have still been okay as a way to also double its power with Ronos. This way we get the extra Pilferer's trigger, I guess. So yeah, because we don't have O'Hare, we are definitely not burning them out here. But it's still a pretty massive attack. Add Klothys into the mix. Probably could have tapped my lands. I guess maybe because we don't have World Tree, I didn't have the right mana fixing anymore. And then we can animate the Incubator as well. Could have also done that first. But yeah, our opponent has seen enough. This is probably more than enough coming their way. Having a quick look at the board here, they have 6 blockers. Let's say they have a removal spell too. That's still gonna pale in comparison to the number of attackers we have. Plus we also get some additional triggers, such as our Xenagos, which can double a creature's power. So that's probably going for one of the tramplers here. And yeah, that should do it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Maha, mono black control. But yeah, that's usually not something we care about. Unless maybe Maha plus an enchantment would kill our gods on the spot. But yeah, I think we can work around it. This hand is decent. I would definitely swap the gods for land if I had the choice. But we still have multiple 2-mana ramp options into Survey, so that should get us on our way. But yeah, creatures are not going to be reliable, since Maha is very good at finishing them off. Inquisition can have a look. Can take both of our 2-mana ramp cards. So we can Genesis. So you've already drawn 3 of our gods, which isn't great. Winter Moon, wow, that's brutal. Still gonna Genesis. Still gonna take the Blood Crypt, I think. Or I could Glimpse, and then Glimpse can get a basic. I guess that's maybe still better long term. Yeah, I do not have any answers for artifacts that I can think of. I guess Leyline Binding, but yeah, we don't have many. Alright, so now I can also Rampant Growth, get another basic. Probably get a Forest, although we're gonna get Forest with Glimpse. I guess I don't have black mana yet. So currently Winter Moon doesn't actually affect us, since we only have the 1 non-basic. And we can try and fetch as many as possible. Or I could Survey here, which is most likely gonna find a bunch of non-basics. But at least we'll have them available for 1 turn. Alright, so I can get fetch lanes, which can get more basics, although we will run out eventually. Let's see. Yeah, I think I still get 2 fetches. And there's Maha. A pretty fast win condition as well. Omen Path Journey can get more basics. Do want to leave the forest in the deck for Glimpse. Alright, so those are all the remaining basic lanes. And then I guess we'll get some non-basics as well. Well, we're trying our best to play around this Winter Moon, but it's not easy. But that's where, again, the fetch lanes are so useful. Opponent draws 2. I'll untap. I guess the fetch lane doesn't have anything left to fetch, so that's just a useless card now. And I drew the forest, the one land I needed to get with Glimpse. Okay, do we play Keranos, or do we just Golos, get World Tree? Sure. And then World Tree is the land we need to untap. Yeah, this is super awkward. And Golos is not going to survive, but we knew that. And March will take it out. So now I want to try to avoid tapping my non-basics where possible. Okay, so can still play Keranos, or we can play Prismatic Bridge. How close are we to activating World Tree? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're getting close. Esika, unlikely to stick around. I guess I can replay Golos. That gets me a land. And then we need to be careful to tap our basics, because auto-tapper's not going to help us there. So that's 6, that's 7. No basics left to get. And then I probably have to take 2 of Breeding Pool. And I'm not going to cast Esika, since I would tap a bunch of non-basics. Possible I should not have grabbed the Tri-Lands with Journey and just gone for basics to get those as soon as possible. So next turn I get to untap all of my basics. And the Proving Ground. Is that going to be enough? Taking 7.
One of your friends has to leave.
Opponent's got 3 cards in hand. And I drew Pilferer, which is also one of the cards I needed. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess I still have enough to activate World Tree. But I'm not sure that we have enough gods to win the game. Especially if they can remove Pilferer, giving the team haste at instant speed. But we're about to find out. This is the best I can do. No Ronos trigger, no Keranos trigger. Can target the Trampler. Smash. Wow, did we actually get there? We did. Wow. That's impressive through a turn 2 Winter Moon against our 5-color deck. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Vadrik, a blue-red Spellslinger deck. Hopefully they're playing it easy on the counter spells, but can never be too sure. This hand's alright, missing some 2-mana acceleration, several 3 and 4 mana options. I think we can still do better. Just really hoping for a cheaper mana accelerant. Alright, we got there with Genesis and Transformer. And we can fetch turn 1, get a tri-land. So blue, red, green is fine. We'll just play a Transformer. Better to play Genesis if our opponent does keep up a counterspell, as something we can play in their turn as well. Opponent's got their own ramp artifact. Alright, now Growth Spiral 2. Although I guess I can't cast both. So I have to decide. Let's see. I guess I can just Spiral for now. See if we pick up another ramp artifact. Chromox kind of counts. Although I could also just cast Sapsunen, to be honest. So we can play it slow. Opponent plays Vadrik. So they could still easily have a wash away for Golos. So maybe we try Sapsunen or Thassa. Thassa flickering Golos is pretty sweet, but we're probably never resolving Golos if that's the case. So I think I get Sapsunen going. Or at least try to. And I can wait on Chromox. Haven't made up my mind yet. So an indestructible creature, they can only really bounce to deal with it. Okay, Ancestors 8, so they're pumping Vadrik to get a bigger discount. So they can try to go off. And now Pirate's Prize. So their opponent's definitely going off here. There's only so many treasure token makers that also draw cards, but they probably have all of them in the deck. And now an ambush. Base power and toughness 5/5, so it's a 7/5. Everything gets a 7 mana discount. 3 steps, copy the treasure, draw and discard. Says no to the time twist. Well, the good news is we could block, so they're not attacking for lethal this turn. Alright, and then end of turn we'll fetch. And draw 2 with Sapsunen, Brainstorm's useful. So, could try to go for Golos, it's not guaranteed to resolve. But if I go full control, I can also maybe Brainstorm. Golos resolves, in response we'll Brainstorm. And then I can shuffle away some of my gods, even though Thassa would be a combo with Golos. I'm just not counting on it. And now I get World Tree. And then it's fine to Chromox the Planar Genesis so I can ramp in growth. So I'm guaranteed to get an extra land. Okay, how close are we to activating World Tree? 1, 2, 3, 4... Yeah, next turn I could go for it. So if I don't die this turn, we're in great shape. Golos is happy to chum block. Because yeah, now with Bergi, our opponent could potentially draw their entire deck. They still need to maybe filter the red into blue. We get to untap. And yeah, I think we go for it. Unless they can counter the trigger, we should be fine. Sadly drew O'Hare, so can't count on it. But we'll still have plenty of other gods to cross the finish line. That works. Can our opponent cast Cyclonic Rift at instant speed? We would still get the Pilferer's triggers. And then it doesn't matter how I reorder the triggers here. Opponent falls to 1, and we get to attack. Can target, I guess, something big. Sapsunen. And smash. And go to damage. Alright, awesome. And both decks got to pretty much do their thing. Our thing just happens to win the game. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing off against a Roxanne. Definitely a tough matchup. We're both going to be ramping. They get to also ramp with their commander while dealing damage. This hand doesn't have enough ramp for me to want to keep. This is much better. And we found a white source, so then grow getting plains can fix for double white. They will have some more mana creatures, so we can wipe those away too. And maybe want to fetch another tri-land here. Or I can just play this tapped. And then Chapel, grow 4 plains, and see where we end up. Titan can also get our World Tree. So depending on what lines up better in our curve, we might skip Golos. Okay, so let's grow. Now I don't need to get plains. Is there another color I want to get? Not particularly. Could have got an island to maybe dissuade them from casting Roxanne, thinking we might have a wash away up. But our opponent had Cavern anyway. So take 2. Still gonna Wrath to set them back a little bit, even though they can easily redeploy a Roxanne. Next turn I can cast Titan. And then ideally I get to attack with it. Opponent's going for a Facebreaker and Provisioner. Okay, don't mind if I do. And then the second land probably doesn't matter. One of the tri-lands. Opponent attacks. Could block the Provisioner. I don't think it's worth it. They probably have a Lightning Bolt in hand. There's Roxanne once again. That's acceptable. So yeah, hopefully they don't cast anything game-winning next turn. 1, 2, 3. So next turn I should be able to get the gods. And this turn I can play Golos and Grazer to present maximum blockers. I suppose I could have also played the invasion and then attacked the invasion to transform it. So yeah, plenty of mana to go around. Just need to untap at 16 life, that should be feasible. Roxanne is safe. And Enthusiasm plus an attack can finish off Golos. But yeah, unless they blow up my World Tree here, and we should be fine. And we haven't played any gods yet, so they don't have much to suspect. Okay. They still have 6 mana. But they're gonna go digging. Finding more lands. And now a Chariots, so opponent's tapped out. And it's go time. And this time I'll make sure to order the triggers, so we first resolve God Eternal Ronos, and then the Perforos triggers to maximize our damage output. Oh yes. So this way O'Hara Shonil will deal 8 damage with every Perforos trigger. So if we quickly do the math here, so 13 triggers on the stack, 12 of those are Perforos, so that's 8 times 12, 96 damage total, and that's before we even attack. We can target a creature with Xenagos. The biggest creature will probably be like Sapsunan here, or I guess we can give Perforos haste with Xenagos as well. And that will go up to first 14, then 28. Double every creature's power once again. So yeah, that's probably approximating 300 damage, maybe a little bit less. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Phelia, a Flicker deck. So they could have some hate for non-basic lands. Otherwise, ramping into World Tree should be a decent plan. Now with Leyline Binding, we gotta think about basic land types. Opponents go to Signets. And I can fetch. So black, blue, white is not an option, since I only have green tri-lands. So then the closest is blue-green, black maybe. And then if I get a Plains with Rampant Growth, we'll have a 1 mana binding next turn. Although could have also prioritized blue and green for Growth Spiral. Happy to just Migration Path. Opponents go to Hunter, and then end of turn they're gonna play Phelia. Could keep a binding for Phelia, although now Supreme Verdict's also a solution. So let's just ramp some more. Maybe keep Leyline Binding for something like a Winter Moon, which could mess up my mana. Fortune, another Flicker effect. So should be able to Spiral plus Supreme Verdict. It's uncounterable, so they can't mana tithe me. But didn't want to play a land yet in case they tried. Although, maybe could have kept up a Leyline Binding, not sure if the mana would have worked out. And then now, I could name Scout or Giant, since Titan's a Giant. And we can just skip Golos, since Titan gets 2 lanes, including World Tree. Okay, cast our uncounterable Giant. I guess I could still reprieve it. But it's not like I can Golos twice. Because yeah, reprieve technically doesn't counter, it just sends it back. That resolves. And get my World Tree. Hope it doesn't get removed. And a Tri-land. Okay, everything's in place. I believe we already have enough mana to activate next turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. Just enough. Can wait and see if there's anything they want to flicker with Phelia. I'm gonna let them have their fun, as long as it doesn't stop me from comboing off. Banishing Light's fine. If I Binding the Banishing Light, we actually trigger Titan again. But yeah, if it doesn't mess up my plan, that's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just double checking here. Because their opponent would probably concede if I Binding the Light and try and block Phelia. And we don't want that to happen. Sack World Tree. And we got there. Make sure we don't skip any gods, and then I'm gonna reorder the Ronos and Perforos triggers as quickly as possible. Did we get all of them? All the way to the front. And our opponent concedes, sadly. Yeah, that's the problem with trying to reorder the Ronos trigger. You often don't have enough time to let it all resolve before they scoop it up. But it is the optimal way to deal damage if you want to be technical about it. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, and we get to find out how the deck fares against aggro with turn 1 Ragavan guaranteed. So having a sweeper is pretty vital. This hand's a little heavy on the clunky gods. Don't even have a fetch land to go with Clothis. So I'll look for something better. Alright, I mean, this is probably good enough. Can fetch a tapped Tri-land. Rampant Growth on 2, Grow on 3, Golos can hope to block Ragavan. And then I want to get white, green, black maybe? Primeval Titan's good too. Do I want to get a second white? I mean, Command Tower fixes most of my mana problems. In terms of basic line types, we already have all of them, so this shouldn't matter too much. A monocolored red deck could have non-basic land hate in the form of Blood Moon and Winter Moon as well. So if possible, we want to fetch basics. Ragavan's not going to find too many threats in our deck outside of the gods, but those usually don't attack right away. Okay, Annex is pretty scary. So, yeah, just gonna grow. And then next turn I could already cast a Primeval Titan, I guess. Zana goes into Titan, could let me attack right away. But I might want a blocker. Because they were already at 13. Opponent could easily have an Act of Treason effect. But let's see if Titan can block. Annex plus Embercleave is another classic that we might see again. And our opponent's contemplating their response here with 1 mana. So they might have a burn spell, maybe they're doing the math to see if they can burn us out. And don't have any life gain lands or other utility lands that are particularly helpful here. So just getting a World Tree and a tapped land. Alright, let's see if we're dead. It's gonna be a Fiery Annihilation, dealing 5, plus a Lightning Bolt. Clears Titan, take 7, 8, 9. So unless I top deck a Sweeper here, we should be dead. So, Eureka Moment seems like the play now over Golos. Because they were nowhere close to winning with World Tree. 1, 2, 3, 4. So a little bit short. Explore could still maybe draw into a Sweeper. If it's a 4-mana one, I can cast it. Although I'm probably dying to the tokens from Annex afterwards. So it was not meant to be. Can play Golos. And then we're still dead on board. So yeah, maybe should have mulliganed for a Sweeper, but we already mulliganed once and we had some early ramp. Just wasn't quite good enough. GG's. But yeah, turns out that turn 1 Ragavan is pretty effective. Opponent's got plenty more haste creatures. And that'll do it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Kona, which can cheat all sorts of things into play as early as, I guess, turn 3, maybe even turn 2 if they have a Mox. We have a pretty slow hand, but maybe it's good enough, because Sweepers could be useful against Kona. And then we've got some ramp, even if it's in artifact form. So I'll try it. Definitely counting on Solar Transformer. And then our altar, quite emblematic of the deck. Also informed the sleeve choice. Vastwood is great if we can draw a lane for it. Opponent with a glimpse. So next turn it can maybe cast Kona. Okay, I'll go for Relic since it's a bit better alongside Golos. If we end up casting it. If they play Kona, I probably have to wipe the board. So yeah, opponent's gonna wait to maybe tap it before we get a chance to remove it at sorcery speed with a vehicle. So then there's not much I can do about it. So we just wanna develop our own board. And if I'm potentially gonna wipe the board next turn anyway, I guess we prefer Vastwood Surge over Golos. And then get white mana. And already have double black. Maybe get an extra green. Okay, so let's see what they can put in play here. At least it happens second main, so we shouldn't just die. Copter gets to attack. And then hopefully whatever they put in play is a creature, so I can still wipe the board. They discarded a Fierce Empath, that can be good for me. Since I could have searched up a big finisher. Yep, Ulamog. Well, at least I didn't get to cast trigger, and Sunfall can exile it, so no harm, no foul. Can go altar into Sunfall. Binding also potentially an answer. Surprised I don't have all 5 basic types in play yet. So that works. Could also try and cast a Prismatic Bridge, but if I can just keep ramping to set up World Tree, that's preferred. Opponent can already redeploy Kona to put something else in play. Round 2. We drew Leyline Binding, so that can get rid of all sorts of things. Although Cultivator Colossus could take a second to go off. Alright, wasn't too bad. Although, once again, our opponent can just redeploy Kona, so the commander tax doesn't really matter. Let's see here, if I Damnation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I can still cast Golos. Otherwise I could have considered playing Golos first, and then by tapping Relic we could still cast the Damnation. But of course preferred if Golos survives. And I'll preserve my life total since it could matter. Maybe should have looked at which type I'm missing for Leyline Binding. But I'm getting a World Tree here. So next turn, I think I can already activate World Tree if Golos survives, since it can make an extra mana with a Relic. So we'll see what happens. Medallion is acceptable. And there's Kona. 3rd time's a charm. What can they have left? We've seen Ulamog, we've seen Colossus. A portal to Phyrexia. Yep, so now I need to draw a land in order to combo off, I believe. Had to be more specific and say untapped land. Say 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. So not quite. But I can binding the portal, and then could redeploy Golos instead of playing Prismatic Bridge. Don't think the land matters too much. Maybe I should finally look at which type I'm missing. Can it be island? I think it's island. Alright, we figured it out. And then I should probably binding now. Get rid of the portal. And I will pass a turn, even though I could cast Esika by tapping Golos. Can just block Kona, should they attack with it. And then the Incubator can soak up more damage. Because they could be hard casting a Craterhoof Behemoth here. So I have to be prepared for everything. Zapandriel, pretty good too. Doubles the Copter's power and toughness. Can still chump Kona. Can do so with Incubator. I could still double block if we're afraid of like a trample pump spell. Seems very unlikely, but no need to take risks when we can just win the game next turn. So unless they're gonna Boseiju my World Tree, we should have it. Old Gnawbone a little bit late to the party. Alright, let's go. I bet they didn't see this one coming. Is that everyone? Quickly reorder the trigger. And hopefully our opponent sticks around for the fireworks. 8 damage for each trigger. So there's still plenty of Perforos triggers on the stack. Awesome, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Zurgo and Ojutai, Jeskai control. So it's mostly the counter spells that we're worried about. This hand has some ramp. We also have a god. Might be a little slow, but it's not terrible, since Grow can set up Keranos on 4. Or of course Golos. But yeah, depending on how the opponent configured their deck, we may not get to resolve many spells. So I just play another tapped land. Now I could Genesis at instant speed as well. Is that better? It could be. And then I can wait to kick Grow from the Ashes. If we don't want to play Golos with 5 mana. Opponent flashes a Malcolm. We'll let that resolve. So if they're playing Malcolm, they likely have other plays they want to make at instant speed, and most of those are instant speed removal spells and counter spells. So that doesn't bode well. Opponent discarding the invasion. Oh, that's Genesis. Did not find a land, in fact, so that's pretty brutal. I guess we like spelunking out of these. Don't have a sweeper yet, so could also grab Damnation. Maybe that's still worthwhile. So yeah, I don't get to ramp this turn. So I'm not quite ready to play Golos yet. Alright, in that case we'll grow. I doubt they're fighting over this unless it's with a mana drain. Next turn I could just Titania's commands, which can also grab World Tree. Opponent's just gonna keep up a bunch of blue mana. I guess if Titania's command resolves, I could also get something to make Golos uncounterable, namely Cavern of Souls. But yeah, opponent's got once again 2 mana up. So that's not happening. Could bait with Keranos, which I'm less sad if it gets countered. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's gonna be a reprieve. Okay. Now our opponent does know about our God plan, so that could also backfire. Opponent goes for Zurgo. If they leave it in play, I'm down to cast Damnation as well, before Malcolm can play stuff for free. So Coast would be clear for Titania's command, perhaps? How bad is it if Malcolm casts something for free? If it's like an extra turn, that could be really bad. Yeah, this is tough. So I guess I will still be a mana short of activating World Tree, even if I get it here. So maybe I should Damnation, but it's such a waste of my mana that it doesn't feel worth it. So search 2 lands. Can make some tokens. How much life have I gaining? I guess gaining 5 is worth it. So I'll get World Tree and Cavern. Name Scout. And then hopefully we still get to take a turn in this game. Yeah, I'm just hoping the opponent's hand is mostly removal and not counter spells. Although now at least with Cavern we have some counterplay to it. Opponent cast a free Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Pretty good.
You want to play with fire, huh? Today's my lucky day.
Prismari command, luckily don't have any artifacts in play. So they're just going for 2 damage. So next turn I'm scheduled to take at least 8. And to Fairy, okay. So our opponent is mostly tapped out. So I should be able to Damnation and now cast Primeval Titan. Make sure to leave Cavern available. And then with Titan, we'll definitely have enough mana to activate World Tree next turn. They probably have a Swords. Ooh, Stifle. Well, they also could have stifled the World Tree trigger, but now we might be a little bit short on mana.
Oh, this is gonna hurt.
And Fractured Identity will steal our Titan now. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If I draw an untapped land, we can still activate World Tree. And that might be my last opportunity. Yeah, they were maybe just keeping up Stifle to counter Golos' activation, although I guess we wouldn't have had enough mana to cast and activate last turn. Teferi lets them cast sorceries in my turn, so they could technically cast a board wipe to deal with my gods, assuming it exiles. We drew the land. Alright, do you have another Stifle effect? I do have Pilferer in hand, so I don't get any damage triggers, but I do get to attack with haste, assuming they don't deal with haste granting Pilferer. And our opponent's gonna concede. Alright, sadly don't get to put them in play, but I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Eladamri, so a very scary deck that can go off quite quickly as well. So we definitely need our sweepers. We have 2 of them, so I kind of got my wish. Although at 4 mana on the draw, this could already be too slow. But I don't think I can afford to mulligan either. So I'll have to keep and then hope to either draw a 2 mana ramp card or hope our opponent's not off to a blazing start. Gilded Goose can already play turn 2 Eladamri. Ooh, Chromox, that's going to be vital. So we can already cast our sweeper on turn 3. So next turn, if they have either a 1 or 2 mana creature, they can already activate Eladamri and put something in play. So yeah, we'll see if we can survive it. So that's what I kind of mean by the opponent's deck can go off very quickly. Here I also need to think about a drag to the bottom. I guess we won't be able to cast it since we're missing double black. Okay, opponent's got a Fanatic. And what do they put in play? A Galta, okay, that's beatable. So I need to set up Supreme Verdict, since, yeah, drag is not even gonna deal with a Galta if we could cast it. I guess I want to get white and black. And then I'll pitch Sapsunen, since I might still be able to drag to wipe the board again. So yeah, Sapsunen, cast Verdict. Okay. So turn 3 Galta has been dealt with. Ooh, Rexage now answers Chromox. Can still survey at least. And which is what we'll do. Only hit 1 land, that's unlucky. Especially in a deck playing, I believe, 46-ish lanes. Alright, so next cast Golos. We'll have to fetch. And then, yeah, I already have all basic land types here, I believe, so drag is gonna clear Golos as well. But that's okay. And then World Tree should fix my colors, so don't need to worry about getting another black source. But we have a Triome in hand as well. Okay, I mean, we survived the early Eladamri combo. Galta was the best creature they could put in play. So that implies that they may not have too many other powerhouses left. I guess we see Alt Gnawbone, which is pretty good too. Courser is one of those old school cards that shows the top card to both players. And Oracle of Moldiah is another one of those effects. So it's not going to take them too long to redeploy Eladamri. And I guess next turn they can play Alt Gnawbone as well. So I think I actually activate Golos as opposed to doing anything else. I can still Growth Spiral and then activate Golos. But I can also play lands from exile. And then a Deluge isn't bad either. Should have a forest left. And get our snow-covered forest, and then Deluge for 4. Pretty convenient here, leaving Golos alive. Our opponent can cast Gnawbone next turn. which I currently don't have an answer to. So next turn we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I still need to live for another turn cycle before I can activate World Tree. A single attack from Gnawbone is survivable. If they go Gnawbone into like a Crater Hoof, I could die. And this sounds pretty good too. Although they're a bit short of also casting Gnawbone, I guess they can Eternalize Fanatic. So then next turn they have 1,000,000 mana. But their board is still beatable potentially. Opponent replays Eladamri instead of Eternalizing, makes sense. Okay, so I think we activate Golos once again in the hopes of hitting some more ramp cards, although Growth Spiral could also be good enough already. Is there a reason to drag instead of activate Golos? Yeah, maybe I should just drag to the bottom if I'm guaranteed World Tree next turn. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I guess casting drag is a little safer. So I'm gonna lose Golos, but I guarantee that our opponent doesn't have any additional creatures in play. And then as long as they don't top deck an answer to my World Tree, we should be fine. They don't really have a reason to suspect it, since World Tree is commonly played in Golos decks just for the mana fixing. So there is a Gnawbone. They can attack, make some treasures, Eternalize Fanatic, and a Provisioner is fine too. Alright, so we got lucky this game to briefly control a Mox that let us cast a turn 3 Verdict. Otherwise we might have gotten overwhelmed. So our opponent's got a respectable board state, but we're about to have a pretty respectable one too. And we've got every single god still in the deck. Make sure to reorder the Ronas trigger. So now that's 8 damage for every single Pilferer trigger that's on the stack. So we got to see our 5-color Pantheon deck in action, and yeah, we got to activate the World Tree more times than I would have imagined, so the deck seems to be working pretty well. Now, of course, against blue counterspell decks, we're still going to have a rough time, since they can just counter Golos over and over, so unless we draw Cavern of Souls to make Golos uncounterable, or naturally draw into our World Tree, we can still maybe get there. But for the most part, those matchups aren't very fun to play or interesting to watch, so I also didn't include them in the footage here today. But yeah, otherwise, the deck seems to get a lot of wins out of nowhere. Most opponents don't see it coming, since most Golos decks aren't built this way, and especially if you don't show any gods beforehand, the surprise is more likely to be impactful. So that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.